My name is Andrew Yeager-Buckley, and I'm the Director of Operations for Worship Times. The focus of today's 15-minute webinar class is Zoom and what preparations you should consider taking for a solid backup plan. Beyond being a member of the Worship Time staff, I'm also an elder at Central Presbyterian Church in Louisville, Kentucky. Starting on Sunday, March 29th, I took on a new role as the producer and I guess technical director for our congregation's weekly Zoom worship service, which I run right here from our dining room table. I share that with you just so you know this presentation is coming from someone with some firsthand experience. Zoom has been pretty reliable over the last few months, and it's provided a wonderful way for communities of faith to gather virtually for worship. However, a few weeks ago, a large part of the country woke up to reports of Zoom being down. And for those churches that were able to connect that morning, many experienced significant bugs with the system that kept them from being able to move ahead with their planned service. That morning, as our congregation began to scramble to come up with a plan B, we all quickly realized that we didn't have another option in place that we could quickly and clearly communicate to the congregation. It had taken so much effort and energy to get Zoom up and running over the previous few months that we had just not spent 1 second coming up with the plan for the day when Zoom might not work. As the next hours unfolded, there was comfort in knowing that we were not the only church that had put all our eggs in one basket. And over the next few weeks, we began conversations about what our plan B and C and D should be. So in a few moments, I'm going to offer some suggestions on what some of the planning and conversations could look like. None of these are the perfect solution for all, and each congregation needs to find the plan that best works for you, and most importantly, what approaches are realistic, based on the technical abilities, savviness of those leaders that will be in charge, and who will actually really be carrying out these plans. So I'm going to do my best to stay out of the technical weeds today and offer some general advice and best practices. So before I highlight these kind of alternative virtual worship backup plans, I want to offer some comments on these moments we've all heard about. Zoom has failed, it's broken, it didn't work for us today. It's important to say that some of the reports of Zoom not working are not always related to Zoom having any system-wide outages at all. If the person that's in charge of managing the production of your Zoom worship is having problems with their internet connection that day or their computer, that can keep them obviously from being able to initiate the meeting. Or even if they do have an active internet connection, but for some reason it's extremely slow that morning, or just being throttled, that can cause significant problems with how quickly slides appear on the screen, the quality of them, any audio or video that you planned on sharing through that Zoom meeting can look terrible. So part of the backup plan that we're going to talk about that I want to start with is within Zoom itself. You want to always have at least one other person set up as a co-host with copies of whatever slides or multimedia is being used during that service. The goal would be to always have another co-host that could launch the service if needed and fully step into your role without any participants really knowing the difference. And now I'll be honest, it took our church 2 months to find that person for our church. And up until 2 weeks ago, I was the only person, and that was not a good plan, and I knew that all along. But it took us a while to find that right person that I could train and that we could begin to take turns. So now that allows us to take turns running lead for a particular Sunday, and if needed, if something went wrong, the other person could back me up. So now I'm going to move on to actual backup plans that could be considered if Zoom is absolutely just not functioning properly on a particular morning or day. So when assessing these options, you really need to go back to the conversation that led to choosing Zoom in the first place. If Zoom was chosen because hearing each other's voices at moments, like during passing of the peace and seeing each other's faces, was a top priority, then finding a tool that offers a similar user experience is going to be important for your backup choice. So I'm going to go ahead now, and here are the four kind of backup plans that I'd recommend. The first is Google Meet. Now, in the past, you might have heard of Google Hangouts or Google Chat. Late last year, Google began the process of merging these tools into one new video conferencing platform that's now called Google Meet. And some of you that have had your kids experiencing online schooling might have a love-hate relationship with Google Meet. But I'll tell you, if Zoom's not working, it's probably one of the best options. There are others. There's WebEx. There's some other GoToMeeting. There's some others, but Google Meet really has some attractive features, and it's very user-friendly. It's compatible across different types of devices for your users. It allows for the similar types of controls as a host. So your ability to pin a particular speaker's video on the screen, your ability to mute or remove participants as needed, screen sharing, the ability to share slides or other media with the those that have gathered for worship. You can do that. In fact, if you're using Google Chrome, that particular browser, it has some additional special features that can be used to optimize the experience while running a gathering through Google Meet. It has a messaging system, so the chat area where you can engage during worship, receive prayers of the people, or just different ways that you might look to create an opportunity to engage in the midst of worship with those that have gathered. It allows for you to record. It does include a restreaming tool through YouTube. So this is similar to how Zoom now lets you restream through Facebook Live or YouTube. But obviously, since it's a Google product, they only want you using YouTube. There's some workarounds, but the easiest way would just be pushing your stream or your gathering to YouTube. And then if you wanted that on Facebook, you would just take the live stream link and put it into your Facebook page, and that's how folks could find that. The last feature I want to lift up is live captioning. Google Meet has included this feature, live captioning, and it's a wonderful, very, very accurate closed captioning system that offers real-time automated live captions powered through Google's speech recognition technology. And I've seen it in action a few times, and it's amazing how accurate it is. So there are definitely some trade-offs, features that Zoom offers that Google just doesn't. But in my opinion, Google Meet is a solid solution that would allow you to quickly set up a meeting, send out that link to those that had registered for the gathering on Zoom. You could send it out through your email list for the church pretty quickly and still be able to gather that day for worship. If placing a live stream on your website for those that don't want to connect to Zoom is already part of your rhythm, then those guests would never really know the difference. You could place a link to that live stream on your website and on your Facebook page. So that's Google Meet. And so I'm going to move on from that one, but that's kind of the first option that's kind of a almost true substitute for the same type of Zoom experience. So the second one I'm going to lift up is having an individual leader, worship leader, just stream directly through your Facebook page or YouTube Live, leading that service on their own. So what that would look like is each week while preparing worship, what I'd recommend is that leadership should make note of the elements of the service that could still work, or how they would need to be adapted if one leader would need to lead the whole service on their own through various live streaming tools, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, or another live streaming platform that you might use. This slimmed down service might only include a gathering prayer, a scripture reading, a sermon, prayers of the people through the comments section, and maybe a closing prayer. Unless that pastor or worship leader is extremely tech savvy, this probably means no slides or pre-recorded music would be included in that particular worship service. But that's okay. I think a lot of us have forgotten that when we started 2 months ago or more, most of us had simple prayer services with no bells and whistles. And little by little, we've raised the bar so high that we've kind of forgotten that it's not good or bad or that anything below having music and slides is not worship. If you can gather in community and have that presence and time together, that is worship, coming together and being in prayer and caring for one another and then looking for ways to respond to what you've heard. You don't need all the bells and whistles always. And so this is my encouragement that you come up with a plan and be okay with the fact that maybe we have to pivot at the last second and just have a simple prayer service. So moving on, the next option is to have, the third option I'm going to offer is to have at least one pre-recorded service available so that on a moment's notice, it could quickly be released. And my recommendation would be that you have this service already uploaded to your Facebook page or YouTube account, but hidden or unpublished. If and when you needed to use it, you can set it up to premiere at your traditional worship hour. Both Facebook and YouTube offer this premiere feature that allows you to schedule a pre-recorded video that you want to broadcast live on your account at a certain time. And this gives you the ability to take advantage of all the benefits you get with a live event, but with a pre-recorded video. Those gathered can still interact through the comments area and still be experiencing that worship service together live as a community. I get it. It's not the same as truly being live. It's not the same as being able to look into each other's eyes and see each other's faces, but it is a good alternative. And for many churches, this is the primary way that they're doing virtual worship right now. I know a lot of churches that are pre-recording their services and then premiering them in this way at a live time. And so it is a great option, and it's one that you might want to consider. And so the fourth option I'd like to offer is quite simple and doesn't require learning any new skills at all. Just encourage your congregation to worship virtually with another church, either in your town or another congregation that's part of your extended family of faith. When we experienced our own Zoom fail a few weeks ago, this was the final plan we came up with. We quickly sent out an e-blast and posted a message to our Facebook page, letting folks know that we would not be able to gather as Central Presbyterian that morning, but we strongly encouraged and promoted opportunities to worship with Presbyterian family around Louisville and in other parts of the country. So these are the four options that I encourage you to consider. These were not presented in an order of best to worst, and like I said at the very beginning, you've got to come up with a backup plan that's realistic for your context. Alongside any promotions for virtual worship gatherings, I'd recommend that you include a note about your church's communication plan in the event that Zoom is not working. This is similar to the notifications that most of us place in bulletins or newsletters about severe weather alerts or severe weather planning. It might read something like this: Central Presbyterian Church virtual worship backup plan. And then something like, we've been blessed over the last few weeks, or the last few months to gather. Let me go back. Sorry about that. So the little fun note that I'd come up with as a thought that you could place in your e-newsletter or on your Facebook page just as a reminder if something goes wrong could be something like this. We've been blessed to gather for worship each Sunday over the last few months via Zoom, while only experiencing one Sunday with technical issues that forced a late cancellation. If in the future we experience a similar situation, we will communicate via email and Facebook no later than, and for ours church it would be 30 minutes beforehand or 10:30 a.m. with the backup plan. So it's just another thought that you might want to put into. You don't need to tell the church exactly what your backup plan is going to be because the backup plan may change over time. But you want to have a backup plan and effectively let the church know that if they're not experiencing what they think they should be experiencing, can't connect, that they should know already what to expect. They should know that if something's not working, they're going to get an email or they should check Facebook, and that there will be another plan communicated.